Lennig with the squirrel. Small up in tall in it. It's in squall. See a dollar mug heights up. And it's a SHULQWILUM to need Stz'uminus. Suck mean to the partner. My name is SHULQWILUM. I come from a village called Tuckmin, one of the villages of the Stz'uminus people. About an hour and a half drive from here, traffic permitting, of course. I've been asked to come here to talk about my experiences in herring. I have a very, very, very wide experience in herring. I am a commercial fisherman. I still have a business. I don't fish herring anymore. My effort to say we should leave it alone. So maybe one guy leaving a boat doesn't mean much, but it meant a lot to me. So I could look at another way of helping people preserve the herring. I studied herring mainly because of my commercial effort. As introduced, I was the sonar man. That's a specialized position. Either you're the hero or the zero. You either caught some or you lost them. So 18 years in a row, we're top boat on the coast. That means a lot of herring. I won't tell you how much, but someday I'm past the bragging part on fishing on particular herring, because it hurt to know that almost everywhere I fished, except for the Bain Sound area, the Comox area, was shut down because of overfishing. And I fished in all those overfished spots. And with a big fleet, there's a big fleet. So I've turned my attention to pretty well what you've seen on the short film. There's 3 films, as was alluded to. Trying to bring our story, our long story of herring to our people, our young people. On the commercial end, it started with the support the war effort. The first Saltries supported the First World War. In there, more herring were caught in those days than has been caught in the recent 20, 30 years. This coast of ours was, you describe the river, you can walk across the backs of fish in the river as well. Herring was the same. From here right down to California. So the Saltry fisheries was the beginning of the commercial effort. And our people played a huge role because most of the fish were caught in the Gulf, the upper Gulf Islands. Weather, proximity to everything was right there. 2 of my uncles were renowned, we called them choo-choo broilers. The herring would be in the scows and caught put in between the 2 big logs, and we'd pull a line in the end and drop it in, and the 2 men would pull a broiler through to load it on the packer. 2 of my uncles they talked about them for a long time. These guys were a powerhouse, the choo-choo broilers and the reduction herring days. Then we went, of course, to the roe herring. Asians, particularly Japanese people, used it in ceremony and high times in their life. And they revered the herring from the coast, and that was the main market for us when we went herring fishing. There's a couple of The seine fishery is probably the biggest, caught a lot of fish, and that's what I did. Then there's a gillnut fishery, which mostly, it's changed now, but in the beginning it targeted the females. As males are smaller, you could make a mesh that just, because the females are carrying, so you can catch more females. I broke the mic. Anyway, those kind of things are.
No.
There you go, it's on.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
I was going to use my big house voice there for a minute. Yeah, but anyway, I'm just trying to touch here and there about my own personal experience with the herring. In Stz'uminus down at Cleet Bay, I guess the herring came in like clockwork. The only little variance that was a few days is whether the 5-year-olds were prominent or the 3-year-olds. And I think that's a traditional knowledge. If you've seen big fish, the season is going to be earlier. If you've seen the small fish, you're going to trickle in a little slower. But and that varied only a few days every year, just a few days. And when we saw the SHULQWILUM out there, the long necks out there, we knew that the herring were coming. And we started to get ready. And our uncles would go help us. We could talk about sighting the trees now. We'd bring trees out, anchor them out. You didn't just drop it anywhere. Depending on what you saw and what the indicators were, you found a place to drop a tree that the heron would spawn on. There was a lot of life in the sea. You didn't have to really do that, but it was a wonderful tradition. When the heron finished spawning on a tree, you couldn't lift it aboard. It's so heavy. We chopped the branches off one at a time to get it on board. And then there was, it's called you've seen it in the film. The heron was swimming amongst this brown reed or kelp of some kind. It wasn't, we called it japweed. There's a little bulb on there that made it float. It was about that high. And it would get so full of heron eggs also. They spawned on that. So it was just amazing amount of time. As kind of touched on in the film, it was the entire community came together. You see a lady that was making the SHULQWILUM, peeling the herring. When we weren't out raking herring, if there was enough now in the tubs, in the vats, the kids would be doing that. We'd do tons and tons and tons of herring in a couple of days. Because you only knew you only had 2 weeks or so, and the herring would start to go out to sea again. So when the stories we have is that it arrived at the time when our food supplies that we were saved for the summer in the spring, we're starting to deplete. So the heron arrived at a really, really opportune time for it. There was efforts to make enough for trade. We had uncles that went further down south or into the interior with smoked heron, dried heron, and they traded other tribes for that. And they knew we were coming. They knew we were coming to have a chance to meet our friends and cousins again, relatives, have a chance to feast with everybody. And they just revered the heron, the delicacy of the heron. But it's a worry now that the heron aren't coming back. And my cousin said that on there. How can you teach the young people if there's nothing there? So we moved our thinking a little bit, and the effort a little bit, at least I did anyway, is to try and find ways to tell our story of heron with our kids, our children, our grandkids. Most of those young kids you saw in there were my grandkids. They just loved to fish. All the food. And my daughter was the one that was talking about the programming. She said, Dad, I got 200 fish from Malahat. What are you going to do with it? I don't know. Let's smoke it. Okay, so we get a little group going. We smoke 200 fish. She puts it out on our community information there. Says, anybody want 2 sides of fish at my dad's driveway this afternoon? We have a mile-long car parking issue, but people just love it, and we love sharing that way. I know we've got fish from many tribes to help us keep our efforts alive, the Shinchothan people, Malahat, Qualicum, Comox, sharing around. Sometimes we have to give them wood, just the way it goes. But on the heron issue, we have to turn to you, all you good people, ask for help to influence this governments that are in front of us, giving direction to how policies and regulations are made. We're as far away from those policymakers as can be. Nobody in this world is further away than our First Nations people from the policymakers. As stated by Trudeau himself about 3 years ago, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans is run by racists towards us. We challenge, they think we challenge the federal government because of positions like the Douglas Treaty, Aboriginal rights. But for us, we're now standing on the right to eat. That's what we're standing on. And when we have enough to eat, the spring salmon, the killer whales, it's called quails, schads, all the ducks, fish, killer whales, goes down to our one of our golden rules: share what you got. We're sharing now with We're trying to make it so that when we share with Mother Nature and all her children. They didn't deplete the heron. Why should they suffer? So anyway, that's the kind of effort. I don't want to be a doom and gloom kind of guy here. I really, really love the enthusiasm of the children. They don't know all these horror stories about policies and regulations, but now they know how to make a heron and put it in a smokehouse, and how happy their grandparents are to have a lunch. We tell them, when you give your lunch to your grandparents or your uncles, tell them you want to hear a story. And they're desperate to tell the stories. Our people, our older people are holding it, they're bursting at the seams, trying to find a way to tell the stories. Whether it's through education people, thank the education people. Or the young people that run the programs for our youth. Can't say enough thank you to you. And there's a few people that are in what we call a management position of the sea resources that we have. I want to thank you. It's a hard thing you're doing. It's really hard. You've got guys like me going to chomping at the bit to want to go fishing, and something's on the way, a regulation. But anyway, heron is a keystone. It's like a clam. It's a keystone. I love the heron. When I was a young man, I used to rake heron and sell it for $1 a piece to the sports fishermen. All of a sudden it became a business for other people to run. When you see the instrument, what I call the instrument of the heron rake, Stz'uminus, it's pretty much a magic thing for us. If you got a heron, a bucket of heron off a hook, you put it in a bucket, you couldn't achieve what we did. The heron itself will cook it from itself from the inside and soften the meat, and it wouldn't survive in a smoker as quality. But with the heron rake, the teeth puncture the heron, and it allows it to accrete some of the oils, and it doesn't cook itself from inside. And you could, as you left it for a certain length of time, and it's a practice thing, you don't know how long to leave it in the vat or in the tub. But when you did the quilts, it just went like this, quick, all the bones were gone. But it's a very important practice that we have reviving now. We're teaching our young people. But the Stz'uminus was a really, really important tool for our people to catch herring. You could catch, if you visualize on one of the films there is on a canoe, but if you visualize a dugout canoe with the guy kneeling in the bow somehow, sitting in the bow, raking it, using it like a kayak paddle and raking herring, you could fill that canoe. It's amazing, actually. So, and to top it off, they taste so damn good. So thank you for listening to me. I hope I helped your thinking, and I want to say, reinforce that we need help from everybody. Speak your mind. Doesn't matter it's not what present-day government or fisheries department wants to hear. It is sad. I've seen Eric's post that they've increased the allowable catch again this year for the roe heron fishery by quite a bit. That roe heron fishery's changed a lot. The Asian customers we had when I was doing it are not as interested in it as the way they used to be. So some of that is going to food for the fish farms and trout farms and those kind of things. But anyway, I could diss the heron fishery as long as I have, but I love heron. I've seen it there on a video there. Stz'uminus has 11 miles of waterfront. And at any given day, 30, 40 years ago, we'd have 10 miles of spawn. It was amazing. Transformation the sea and the beaches took in a couple of weeks was magic. It was magic. The ducks came in, the spring salmon came in, the seals came in. Kaltanamatsan showed up. Yeah. So thank you so much for, Edie, going to see Thama, Harchka to stay with us. Please give our regards and best health wishes to your brother. I hope he recovers. It's scary nowadays with the kind of H1 and all that kind of stuff happening. But anyway, Harchka.